can barely hold him back. Jaewon notes that he was going easy on it too, but Mino says that isn't going easy at all. He notes that breaking it completely isn't difficult, but rather, it's hard to break it in that precise location, right? So, he's sorry at least. Michael says that an apology won't be the end of it, as that quad-horn horn was extremely expensive. And what is he going to tell the infinite establishment that order it now? Jaewon says that he will compensate him with a better horn, and Michael asks how a beggar like him can even imagine of giving him a better horn in the first place. Jaewon pulls something out of his pouch, a horn that came from a pentahorn. This shocks the smithy once again, and Jaewon asks if this will be enough to compensate, as he doesn't have any quad-horn horns right now. Michael says that this will be plenty, and Jaewon asks if he can use this place for a bit. Michael orders the apprentices to close the door and starts escorting Jaewon somewhere else. Mino also leaves, as she has somewhere to be. Michael presents him the best smithy in all of Gorgon, the Twilight Dusk. This place has the best facilities an artisan can hope for, and since he's the deputy owner for the day, he will allow him to use it however he likes. Jaewon thanks him for the courtesy, and Michael asks where he got his hands on such a precious horn. Jaewon explains that he got it himself, by hunting a pentahorn, which, given the name, had 5 horns. He also asks for his help, as he needs to make a sword sheath, and this is the first time he's doing something like this. Michael is quite surprised he wants to create a mere sheath from such a horn. Just how great is this sword of his? Jaewon just hands it to him, and he begins analyzing it. A replica of the Ice Dragon's sword, right? Since it's made by the mayor himself, it's quite the rare item, and its appearance is stunning as well. However, he feels that using the pentahorn horn is still quite overkill, as it would be better to just make a new sword. The sword suddenly snaps out of his grasp and begins gobbling up the horn. Michael notes that he should have expected it to be a spirit weapon, but it also contains the soul of a high-class race. So how does he have this? He also notes that his sword is evolving right now, as its form is changing so it will go through a grand evolution. Once that's over, he will have to give the sword a new name. Jaewon asks why, and Michael explains that once the spirit weapon passes its evolution, its original name will disappear entirely. The material also disappeared, but it's all right, as Jaewon has others. Michael wonders how, but remembers that a pentahorn indeed has 5 horns, quite obvious. He asks how he can help, and Jaewon notes that he needs to see the way he works with the materials first and foremost. Michael asks if he has any type of shape in mind. Jaewon explains that he will live that to him, since he's the pro in this situation. Michael, who is now sweating profusely because of this challenge, assures Jaewon that he, the Master of Dawn, will show him what he's capable of. Inside of Gorgon's inner fortress, a man bows to a person of high importance and explains that the thugs were slaughtered, and because of this, the target was lost. The Gorgon inner fortress minister, Yurchin Zeber, asks how they were defeated, and the man notes that it's something he also doesn't know, as by the time he woke up, he was lying flat on top of the roof, as the target noticed his presence. Yurchin thinks that this guy is quite amazing, to see through the high-grade master-level stealth skill so easily. However, this means that they should consider someone who is at least a Stage 5 adapter, so after replenishing the manpower, he will search through the fortress thoroughly and bring him here. The man takes the orders and leaves, leaving Yurchin with his thoughts. He is impatient and begs the fortress master to hang in there, just a bit longer. Inside of a bar, a hologram presenting the top 10 of this week, with the host being Siren, plays. She notes that this is the last video of today, and it's something they might be familiar with. A video which is quite popular in Little Brother, and quite controversial, as it's at the center of attention now. The 99th floor solo clear. This is Jaewon, however. His face is blurred out. The bar patrons wonder what happened to him, as the monarchs seem to like him quite a lot. One explains that the tower received a cultivation suspension, as that demon bastard was up to something, and probably got caught. They talk about rumors of him, how he abandoned cultivation altogether and ran away. So the video must be fake as well, as it's impossible for someone to clear the tower all alone. They ask for some more booze, and that's when Mino walks in, who catches everyone's attention. She sits at the bar, and one guy tries to hit on her, but after she tells him to get gone, he does so instantly. She wonders why she's feeling so upset all of a sudden and orders the hard stuff, enough for her to drown in. While she drowns her sorrows in the bottle, she notes how ridiculous that guy is. A total nutcase, thinking that he's a big shot. He's plain crazy. The bar owner, Claire, notes that she's heard enough from her, as her rambles have become quite annoying. She already has many men around her, so why hang out with someone like him in the first place? Mino explains that whenever she sees him, she get really upset. He destroys everything without a care in the world and swings his sword as if this place and its rules don't even exist for him. He also says strange things that just can't be understood. She remembers the time where he told her that she isn't human, as it seems to have stuck with her. It's as if she's nobody in front of him, nothing at all. Everyone around here is trying their utmost to live, yet that person appears suddenly and keeps showing that face, which screams that they are different, almost as if he's looking down on all of them. When she sees that side of him, she just can't sit still. Claire pats her on the head and notes that she's still a child. She shouldn't meet or get involved with that guy any further, as she might actually die. Suddenly, a golden bird flies through the bar and hands Mino a scroll, which is from Carlton. She wonders what that guy wants with her while opening it, and that's when someone from behind her asks if she's the Witch of Massacre. Mino tries to hit him with a dagger instantly, but he grabs her arm tightly and notes that he doesn't dislike rough greetings like this. But frankly, now just isn't the time, as he has something that she needs to do for him. Back at the smithy, it seems that refining the horn has taken quite the horn, as it has transformed into a monster of sorts. Michael wonders how they are supposed to process such a beast, and Jaewon pulls him up, as he must get a grip. Has he forgotten they are in the midst of something? Since he said that he will help him, they should do it properly. Earlier, they try to breach through the horn, but even the best tools rack under the pressure. Michael says that he's tapping out, as this is too high level to process it now. Jaewon notes that the problem isn't with the level, and uses the first stage of question, which gives the power to question and dismantle the world and its essence, and also, understanding, the power to understand the dismantled world. Suddenly, the horn starts changing shape right in front of Michael's eyes, who is quite shocked. He closes his eyes to cover himself, and when he opens them, he's faced with a gigantic beast. This is how they got into this predicament, where Jaewon is extremely calm and notes that they should do things the proper way. Michael, however, is scared to his wits, as if this is the essence of the pentahorn, he's been using such trivial skills on it. However, this must be a dream, so he must wake up. He starts running towards door, and Jaewon tries to stop him, but he won't listen. He rushes outside and screams for help, but is even more shocked, as he is now seeing the true colors of this place. One of the apprentices asks if he's done smelting, and the giant eye who watches over them at all times says that he does not deserve to see things like this just yet. While Jaewon tries to refine the horn, Michael wonders how such a world exists, and how did he end up here in the first place? Jaewon manages to strike the beast with a great attack, but it's still not enough, so he rushes to attack it once again with the hammer. Meanwhile, outside, Michael is going crazy, as his whole world has been turned on its head. Eventually, everything turns to normal, and they manage to break the horn in two. Michael notes that sometimes, there are things in this world that are quite useless to try, as it seems he's too old for handling these types of horns, so he should have come to meet with him earlier. Michael also explains that he knows he came to meet the shop's owner, the mayor, but he's been away from the workshop for quite a while, and the only available help left around here is a pathetic human like himself. A person who has never made a tower in the first place shouldn't be called an apprentice, is what he thinks. Jaewon notes that race doesn't really matter, as he only cares for the sheath to be made, so they should continue. Michael says that he's had plenty enough for a day, and Jaewon notes that he should just try it 10 billion times, which makes him laugh. In his eyes, it seems like he hasn't done enough, right? But truly, he has tried his utmost. He has tried everything after seeing him work, even if he doesn't believe him. Jaewon remembers when Jay told him that he's mastered all of the skills associated with blacksmithing, and is proud to have a 99% change of fixing anything. But after reaching this level, he had kind of a strange idea. Maybe he wasn't running toward that 99% probability, but rather away from the 1% probability. Haehwan knows that he's been working harder than anyone else out here, but does he know what principle triggers the process skill? Michael says that if he is talking about the principle of skill, Mare's process skill was one of the first skills to exist, and it's something that's like water or fire that has existed from the very beginning. How can mere humans be able to explain the origin of the world? What's even the point of trying? Jaewon notes that if he's saying stuff like this, he hasn't been using his skills that well all of this time. Michael looks at him sternly and explains that the principle of strengthening the hammer and chisel through spirit power and using that power to delicately shape and sharpen the horns, that's it. Jaewon says that if that's the case, why can't the other artisans use process? Michael says that it's because they haven't learned the skill yet, but thinks that if the principle of this skill is that simple, even if one didn't learn it, wouldn't they be able to use something that's at least similar? Jaewon says that he doesn't know what the skill is, yet he's still using said skill. Michael asks who even know the principle of the skill in the first place. Does he know the principle of process? Jaewon explains that he didn't know previously, but he just found out about it. He uses the process skill on the horn and asks the others to look carefully and asks him what he sees. They see the particles breaking down, and Jaewon notes that it's not going to be easy, as because of his tremendous effort, the walls of the world have become as hard as it. His efforts aren't wrong in itself, but doesn't he understand it? If he tries that hard and it doesn't work, then it's not him who's wrong, but the world. Michael is shocked by this revelation and thinks of the time Mayor told him that he's doing a good job at his level. But this is the way the Mayor does things, now how humans do it. He asked how a human should do it, but Mayor didn't have an answer for him, as he didn't know. However, he should blame the race he was born in, as he can't become more than an apprentice in the body of a human. At that time he tried to surpass his limits to no avail. He asks now, what does he want them to do? Go against the world? The world's an honest one that pays back according to how much effort one puts in it, right? So what's wrong with living and adapting to this place? Jaewon says that the world isn't honest, as it tells him he can't do things that he certainly can. He may be old, but he still has that fighting spirit. He should look carefully once again, and not rely on the predetermined system, but on his own eyes instead. Michael does so, and returns to the real world, how it really is. Has he always been living in this world without seeing its true face? A world without skills or interfaces, an honest world here no deceit exists. Unless he's been insane all of this time, how could he have missed something like this? He rises his hammer and puts his chisel on the horn, and strikes valiantly. Eventually, Jaewon leave, as he has other things to attend to, but they have successfully managed to create a sheath, which the sword seems to be quite satisfied with. Michael asks if he has decided on a name yet, and if not, he would like to name it. Since they are writing on it, they should write something that a martial artist would use. Lone Wolf, perhaps. He thinks that this is the perfect name, as it's the only one that goes well with this sword. With that, Jaewon turns to leave, but before that, Michael asks him one more thing. In the world that he can see, what does he look like? Jaewon tells him that he looks like a human, without turning his back. He never looks back, but who could understand him and his lonely world? Jaewon notices that Mino keeps following him, and asks what her intentions are. She comes next to him, and notes that she intends to kill him. Jaewon asks why she would want to do that, and she notes that it's to have a good life after taking the spirit stone he has on his possession. He laughs, and she gives him some clothes, as it's her way of saying sorry, and doesn't want him to look like a beggar anymore. But what is he going to do now, as he didn't meet the mayor? Jaewon explains that Michael told him of a way to meet him, and when he does, he will ask him about the illusion tree, and how to get to the abyss. She asks why he's doing this, as the people who come back from there aren't the same. He notes that he isn't coming back, as he's going to destroy this world and the people on it. This comment sends Mino over the edge, and she asks who he is do such a thing. What gives him the right? Just who does he think he is, for him to live his life without caring for those around him? Acting as he please, without a single bit of care, and being blunt. And most of all, not thinking that people here are humans. Every single person around here are people, even if they are not as strong and brave as he is. They are still human. Jaewon thinks of the two who have shifted his perspective quite a bit, and with question, reads that someone has her on hold, as they want her to bring Jaewon back. That person has someone hostage that she cares about, and he's their target, right? He notices some guys from across them in an alley, and thinks that it must be them. She brought him here to get beat up and save her hostage? A meaningless venture. No matter how many times these things are saved, the truth remains the same, because question shows him the true world. A world where data and numbers rule, and where there are people who would sell their own soul in order to raise their numbers. He will just have to get rid of them somehow and find the mayor. Suddenly, Mino manages to shatter his view of the world and notes that in every aspect, he's the one who isn't a human, not them. They should also split up here, as she's not going to travel with somebody like him. Jaewon looks at her with wide eyes and wonders why she looks like a human again. Jaewon finds out that the guys who threatened her are working with Mayor through question and notes that he should get chasing after her after he changes. Mino arrives at the bar and slowly opens the door, where some goons are harassing the people. The Forbidden Heaven clan elder, the eldest of the 3 Janya brothers. Janya himself asks why she came back alone, as they had a deal. Mino says that he shouldn't have trusted a witch like herself, and that person isn't coming, because he's going to destroy this world. Janya says that she's gone insane, and uses the secret art of shadows to attack her. She dodges the first attack, but Janya uses her position to attack, which hurts her quite a bit. He tells her that they have put soundproof barriers in this place, so there's no way anyone from the outside will know what is going on in here, so she should just give up and bring that guy already. Mino notes that the Dark Forest will be after them, but Janya knows that there's no Dark Forest branch within the Gorgon Fortress. So by the time the Dark Forest clan finds out, she and this woman will both be crushed. Mino uses the 7 daggers of Akarm's secret technique, but even that doesn't do a thing. She falls on her knees and thinks of the time when Jaewon asks her if she wanted to back in the past, if she ever had the chance to. Now, she would. As if she followed him from the start, none of this would have happened. Suddenly, a thrust comes from outside, which pushes Janya back. Mino says that she hates this kind of development, and also asks why he's here instead of destroying the world. Jaewon notes that the clothes she gave him didn't fit, and the goons are glad that he came here on his own. Jaewon says that if they are working with the mayor, they will bring him here now. Jaewon demands that they bring the mayor here right now. The goons wonders if he's actually crazy, and one notes that there are rumors of him going against the fortress, so they seem to be true. Mino urges him to be careful, as their leader is a 4th stage adapter. Jaewon notes that he will not lose, and Janya jumps in the air with his goons, ready to attack. He says that he's quite arrogant, but they will help, and teach him an unforgettable lesson. Jaewon uses a light thrust, which Janya dodges, although barely. The goons are quite surprised that he has that much power, as they thought he was a non-adapter all of this time. Janya wonders if he's one of the mighty from the abyss. Jaewon thinks that, up until now, the only thing that managed to dodge his light thrust was the 5-horned beast. So does it mean that a 4th stage adapter is at the same level as that thing? Well, for him, it doesn't really matter now. Mino screams for Claire, the bartender, and Janya says that if he wants to fight, they can. But if they do so, they will not ensure her safety. Claire tries to tell them to not hesitate with their attacks, but a goon smacks her around and demands she not speak anymore, lest she wants more beatings. Mino is very scared for her safety and pleads with Jaehwan to save her. He can do that, can't he? He thinks that she's asking for useless things now, as he's here to look for the mayor and nothing else. He needs to cut down anyone in his way, be it enemy or someone not related. Mino grabs his coat tightly and tells him that she's still human, just like him, just like everyone. Haewon thinks about everything that happened, and that strange feeling hits him once again. The skeleton who is screaming at him to attack is slowly turning into a human. He laments this happening once again, and uses a large thrust to make a beacon of sorts through the roof, which the guards see. Carlton, who was also with them, says that they should get moving. One of the goons notes that the soundproof barrier has broken, and that's when Carlton arrives, with a bunch of armored guards. He is quite surprised to find Haewon here, and asks just what happened in here. Jaewon says that he came at the right time, as that big guy is breaking the laws he cherishes so much. He might not know the exact laws, but it's probably the Gorgon Criminal Law, chapter 276 verse 4 or something similar. If he were to guess, this man intends to use this bar as a foothold and try to destroy their world by scheming with the mayor himself. Mino notes that he is the one who wants to do that, and Carlton says that based on the Gorgon Criminal Law, chapter 194 verse 4 and chapter 124 verse 6, they will all be arrested without a warrant for destruction and kidnapping. They try to retreat, but Carlton uses his silver restraints to keep 2 in place and summons his weapon. Jenya rushes in with his sword and they clash, creating a shockwave around them. Jenya notices that slowly, he is getting pushed back with great force, and his sword also starts to crack open. He charges in one last time, as this is all he can do, and Carlton uses the restraints to tie his arms and throw him to the ground. With that, he has successfully captured Jenya, who surrenders. However, he heard that he is as naive as he is righteous, which seems to be quite true. Out of nowhere, he throws a ball behind him, which creates smoke all around the bar. From the outside, he laments having to use the black cloud in this place, and one of the goons notes that their youngest member inhaled some of the black cloud. Jenya notes that he already told him to wear his mask properly, and he might survive if he only inhaled only a little of it, so they will see. Someone from behind them notes that they are quite brave to use the black cloud without the clan leader's direct permission. This is the Forbidden Heaven clan elder, the lustful demon, Hyuk Seolrang. He asks if the Witch of Massacre really was that powerful, and what happened with capturing her and handing her over to him. Jenya explains that it's not because of her, but because of Carlton. Seolrang is pleasantly surprised that such an annoying bastard is in there, as he must have surely inhaled some of the black cloud by now, so they will have something good to watch today. Suddenly he spots Jaewon carrying Mino out and asks who he is. He also noticed them, and immediately charges a thrust that evaporates the entire tree they were on. Jenya is extremely shocked that this guy seems to be just fine after inhaling the black cloud. He has never heard of a deer whisperer without antennas, so even if he is one, there's just no way he would walk out so unscathed. Jaewon looks at them and wonders if they are the cleanup party. He finds them quite annoying to say the least. He charges up an attack and thinks that he didn't want to use this just yet, but he has no choice now. He uses Garnak's majesty, which creates a figure of the beast the sword is made out of. In that moment of confusion, the foot soldiers, who had just arrived, get cut up into bits and pieces, seemingly without any movement from Jaewon. Seolrang doesn't want to have anything to do with this strange yet powerful guy, so he runs away, noting that he will leave this into their surely capable hands. Jenya calls him a rat bastard and looks at his goons and thinks that this is how everything ends. This is the culmination of his life. Jaewon says that there is no way for him to survive, so he should answer his questions. Where is the mare that they are hiding? Jenya explains that if he tells him that piece of information, getting out of here with his life would prove meaningless. As if that person finds out, he would be better off dead, he's sure. Jaewon wonders who that person is, and Janya, out of desperation and no other choice, pulls out a spirit stone and swallows it whole. Jaewon is surprised and remembers what Mino told him, that everyone here looks like they are eating drugs, but this is a common misunderstanding that people usually make. What they are eating is no drug. It's something that they eat in order to reduce the soul's pollution, since nobody wants to truly die. Janya bursts into a grotesque form which towers above everyone. He screams out, as now, he has truly turned into one of the dead. He uses his claws to kill the people around him, and now he can also see the real world, what it truly is, and what he has been living in all of this time. What good is dignity in a world such as this one? What was he really scared of all of this time? He can be free now, without the restraints of these walking bodies. Suddenly, he feels Jaewon's threatening glare behind him. He tries to attack instantly, as to take him by surprise, but he stops last second. What is a human doing in this world of the dead? Jaewon in turn asks what this guy became, as he can't see what, even with question. However, it doesn't matter, as he can be killed. Jaewon uses one of his bigger thrusts, putting all of the force he can behind it, which takes Jenya's head clean off. In his last moments, he thinks of his past life, and a tear forms up in his eye. Is it really raining again? With that, he disappears for good. Jaewon wonders what that guy is, and says that he needs to find somebody among the remnants from the bar who knows where he could find the mare now. He walks away from the battlefield, alone once again. He goes to where the injured from the bar are held, and sees that Mino isn't doing so well. Carlton is also on his last legs, and says that they need to alert the inner fortress. Mino pulls Jaewon's cloak, and demands he kill her, while she is still who she is. Jaewon looks at her, and thinks that she really is a human. He can't use comprehend on her at all, and his question wavers when she's around. So why would the dead collapse? However, there is no need for any sort of emotion where he is heading, so he will do as she wishes. There is no room for hesitation. Claire grabs his hand and tells him to wait, as there might be a chance she still lives. A soldier urges her to get to the medical facility now, and Claire pleads with Hye-won to not do anything. At the impromptu medical camp, the medics discuss Mino's condition, which seems to worsen by the minute, as her deadification has advanced quite a bit. Jae-won notices some commotion outside and takes a look. Alarms are blaring all around the place, urging people to evacuate right now, as the dead have appeared within the fortress. A man asks a guard where they are supposed to evacuate to, but he seems to be quite unlucky, as that guard has already turned. It butches him instantly, and more dead come, ready to kill everyone they can put their hands on. Suddenly, a few people jump through the sky and land on the dead. They start killing all of them, and their leader seems to be a man with long hair and a unique sword. Claire notes that he must be the person Mino talked about, the one who said he will reject all the rules of this place. He wants to judge the entire world by his own standards and define himself what a human is, right? She knows people like him quite well, actually, as she has seen one before. People don't just stay here and adapt because they are idiots. They are doing it because there is no other choice. Jae-won says that they don't have the courage, and she asks, courage for the sake of what? Jae-won explains that they need courage to go beyond, to a definition that is certainly more correct. Claire notes that he's probably someone who goes after something like that, and he is most likely right in this case, but she doesn't have that courage, so she doesn't know what he's really thinking. However, she knows at least one thing, that he is extremely dangerous and needs to leave. This contradicts Mino's words, who told him to not leave, as people find their hope when they gaze upon him, so he shouldn't give up on this world, at least not yet. James asks how much medicine they have left, and a doctor notes that they've used most of the medicine to stabilize the fortress master, so they do not have much left. James damns everything, and commands his subordinates to bring all of the medicine that they have left. Jae-won analyzes how they prepare the medicine, which is just ground up horned beast horn. Jae-won asks James if they are able to revert Carlton back from the dead, but James notes that if he knew, he wouldn't react like this at all. Jae-won starts smacking Carlton around, as to wake him up, who eventually does so. He immediately asks him to kill him, as he is the only person who really can. Jae-won notes that usually, people would be asked for help in a situation like this one. Carlton, even in his state, starts reading out laws. Jae-won thinks that he has such useless loyalty, but it can be commended. However, if there were more people like him from the start, there wouldn't have been a need for him to be trapped in that awful tower for 40 straight years. Carlton's soul corruption rises to 94%, and deadification is about to take its course on him. The anti-dead extermination squad, the demon extermination squad captain Jahir, who is also a stage 5 adapter, arrives inside. James knows what his arrival means, and Jahir says that due to Gorgon's special laws, Article 1 verse 4, he will have to get rid of Carlton and the other corrupted individual right this instant. He slashes his sword towards Carlton, but Jae-won stops it with his bare hands and notes that this guy can't die yet, as he still has a few questions for him. Jahir is shocked this guy managed to block his sword with his bare hand and says that he doesn't know who he is. But Carlton is about to become a dead, and soon. It would be a disaster if a stage 5 adapter like himself would really turn, so they are here to prevent that from ever happening. Jae-won says that if he's going to become a dead, he might have something that might help him. The medic is shocked he has that horn, and notes that if it's with that, they might be able to bring him back. Jae-won instantly crushes it into powder, which the medic almost faints for. They feed both of them the powder, and fortunately, Carlton's deadification seems to have stopped. James is extremely glad, and tears run down his face. However, Mino's condition isn't so great, as her deadification is still progressing, most likely due to her stamina that was drained from the fight. Jahir draws his sword once again, but Claire demands he call Chung Hyo, as that old geezer can use dead slash. Jae-won is interested by this dead slash she's talking about, and Claire explains that if he uses that, the corruption will be gone. Jahir notes that the divine physician has an important matter to attend to in the inner fortress, so he can't simply call him over for something so trivial. Others from the squad hold her back, and Jahir tells Jae-won to step aside, as he won't compromise on this situation at all. Jae-won looks at him and says that he will be the one to kill that woman, as he promised her he would. He starts using question on her, and Claire demands he stop this instant, as he has no right to do that. The world starts cracking around her, and he is transported into a white world, where he seems to be alone. That's when he spots a small elderly man who looks over Mino, and wonders how she got into such a mess. However, he will help her, so she needn't worry. That's when he spots Jae-won and is quite shocked, asking what he's doing here and how he managed to enter his world. He analyzes Jae-won further and asks how such a noble soul could ever possess such a narrow mind. Jae-won tries to use question on him, but it doesn't seem to work. Is this man perhaps the origin of her soul corruption then? If that's the case, she might survive when this old man dies. They both strike, however their attacks block each other, which shocks both of them. Suddenly, the old man's sword breaks into pieces, and this world seems to cracking at the seams. They both come out in the same spot, and the old man curses at Jae-won for breaking his mighty sword, as it was made out of precious tri-horn. Jae-won is extremely confused at this point, and just stares. This man is Chung Heo, the despair divine physician. Jaheer asks what he is doing here as he was with the fortress master, and Chung Heo notes that a beautiful woman is dying here. Who cares if he's with the fortress master or not? He also asks Jae-won what he's going to do now, as his dead slash was completely interrupted because of him, and the dead slash can only be used with a sword made of a tri-horn, or something better. That's when he spots his sword, which he starts fangirling over quite hard, but Jae-won stops him. He can lend him the sword if he wants to, but will he be able to save this woman with it? Chung Heo says that he can, so Jae-won lends it to him. He is quite surprised he gave it so easily. He must be quite confident in his battle skills. However, it doesn't matter now. He uses the sword to go back into his world, and notes that it's about time he sees what this sword is capable of. Jae-won looks at his technique, and wonders if it's an illusionary technique, but it's more like when he uses question. The old man charges forwards with the sword, and Jae-won thinks that this is the world he sees, through his eyes. Before he can finish the drawing, he falls down, as his spirit power is lacking quite a bit because he used all of it with that bastard of a fortress master. The world slowly collapses around them, and Chung Heo apologizes, as he wasn't able to do anything in the end. Jae-won picks up the sword, and Chung Heo notes that he's quite foolish, as he has never interacted with this world before, but he really thinks he can copy dead slash so easily. Jae-won notes that he can't do slashes at all, however he can do something better. Chung Heo urges him to stop, as the dead slash isn't just something that anyone can do. What he is doing now isn't brave, but rather reckless, so he should stop while he still can. Jae-won tells him to just shut up already, as this is the first time in his life he's using his power to save another person. He starts thrusting his sword, and thinks of how Mino really looks like. She's someone playful yet stubborn, and a weak-hearted person despite being an assassin. Someone who doesn't betray others easily. But there seems to be one thing left that is missing. He remembers, and puts the finishing touches. Someone who trusts others. They get out of that world, and Mino thanks him for remembering so many things about her. The corruption rate is slowing down, and the deadification seems to have stopped. Chung Heo notes that he's less narrow-minded than he anticipated, but who on earth is he? The dead thrust he learned just now. Why did he do it? Jaheer is extremely surprised that Jae-won managed to use something similar to the divine physician's technique, who says that he hates to admit it out loud, but it is. His dead slash isn't a skill, hence why no adapters can learn it. This means that this person is someone like him, an awakened. The awakened are existences that lie outside of the standard system rules, and also an extreme minority of humans who have obtained a strong strength miraculously after rejecting the system outright. They are people who possess the strength to totally overthrow the composition of powers that belong to chaos. Even in the almighty land, there are few known awakened. Jaheer says that if he's also an awakened, he might be able to save the Tower Master, as his life is invaluable. Suddenly, the Dark Shadow Squad captain arrives, noting that he got permission from the inner fortress, who is also Stage 5 adapter. Jaheer wonders what he's doing here, as the Dark Shadow Squad has nothing to do with the elimination of the dead. They instantly bow down to Jae-won, as to pay respects to the Deer Whisperer. The others are quite surprised, as it seems Jae-won has more to him than originally thought. They all arrive at the inner tower, where Jurhan greets Jae-won, and asks if he really is the Deer Whisperer, as everyone keeps saying. Jae-won just says no, which Jurhan expected. The Divine Physician notes that the Spirit Stone is known for increasing spirit power, and is used to confirm whether one is from the Emerald Bug clan. He's clearly not, so how did he get those stones in the first place? Jae-won notes that he picked them up from their owners, who are now dead. Jaheer asks who would dare kill people from the 5 great clans, and Jaewon notes that he did. Jaewon notes that they attacked first, so it's not really his fault they are dead. Yurin thinks that they are indeed greedy for materials and such, but could he possibly tell them what happened after he entered chaos? Yurin now understands, and will summarize what he just said shortly. He got caught up in something, by pure chance, and entered chaos. Then he got hold of the spirit stones from the Emerald Bug Clan, again, by chance, and entered this fortress. After that, he got caught up in another incident once again by chance, met the Divine Physician himself, and managed to learn his dead slash, even though he has only seen it performed once. Now he really gets it. Chung-hyo asks if he really believes all of this. They shouldn't take these things at face value after all. Jurin notes that he believes him, as in order to gain someone else's trust, he first needs to trust that person. That's just the way it goes. He asks Jaewon if he can inquire on a few other things, who says that he can. Yurin takes a second before answering, and says that the body has right now is alive and well, isn't that right? Jaewon is quite surprised that he found out, and looks at him with widened eyes. He rejected the main game and came out of that Tower of Nightmare by simply destroying it, which is why he is in his soul form. There is a pretty high chance that the illusion tree mistook him for someone who is dead, and sent him into chaos. But his physical body is back on Earth and safe, most likely. He asks Yurin how he found out he's not dead, who notes that he said that he got caught up in something by chance and entered chaos that way. There's nobody in the whole chaos who would describe their very own death as he just did. However, is the reason why he doesn't want to reveal his full identity due to something like he being chased or threatened by someone? Jaewon says that perhaps it is so, perhaps it is not. Jurin notes that it must mean he was close with his guessing, but the truth is, he's got something shameful to apologize for. For the last 4 days, he has sent subordinates to monitor him closely. Jaewon says that he knows, as he's carried one away previously. Jurin expected him to know already, and says that he is much stronger than they ever thought, so it was quite hard for the subordinates to monitor him. But they did gain some information about him. He pulls up 4 tabs, and explains that his target danger level is SS rank, his power level, can't be estimated, and he has caused 380 million horins worth of damage to the fortress. Does he know what others like to call someone like himself? Chung-hyo notes that he's just a crazy person, and Jahir wonders if this guy is a hero or a villain, as he could swing both ways at this point. Yurin explains that he might be a hero to some, and look like a complete lunatic to others, as people are calling him by various nicknames. And to him, people like him, are called the protagonists. There is a rather special characteristics that protagonists like him hold, the simple fact that they are famous. But he isn't really that famous in any way, as someone has been keeping his information hidden from the common people, and that power seems to be doing all of that with hostility in mind. If they are the people behind him, he wouldn't have had any trouble with entering the fortress in the first place. He is a protagonist, who is being chased by some kind of large and unknown power, which also managed to escape into chaos, by pure chance like he did. Jaewon thinks about Jurin just said deeply. Although he is not really sure, wouldn't it be that person known as the Monarch of Pitch Darkness that is chasing him? He is one of the 12 monarchs of the Almighty Land, but just how strong are these monarchs anyways? Yurin notes that he won't dare ask who and what he exactly is, and he also won't ask him to compensate for the damages he caused within the fortress either, as they, the Gorgon Fortress, will provide with protection. Jaewon asks if this Gorgon Fortress of theirs is strong enough to go up against one of the 12 monarchs of the Almighty Land. Yurin asks if one of the 12 monarchs is really chasing him, and Jaewon notes that there is a pretty good chance that it's one of them. Yurin says that this is great, because if it is how he says, the monarchs would become unable to interfere with the matters that take place within chaos itself. Jaewon asks what they want from him in return, as nothing is free in this world, and Yurin explains that he only needs to do them one favor. He begs him to please save the fortress master. 2 hours later, they go down a set of stairs, where the Dark Shadow Squad captain notes that the North Inspection Gate captain and the woman are said to be recovering in the treatment center. However, are they really sure they want him to bring them to the training ground instead of the VIP room? Chung-hyo says that they need to go there, as him and this guy need to decide which is superior, this child's thrust or his slash. He also asks if he's cleared the Tower of Master, which catches Jaewon's attention, and in turn asks if he knows anything about it. Chung-hyo notes that he does know quite a bit, but he will only answer his questions if he wins, and only then. That, probably, is impossible for him. After the fight, Chung-hyo wants another rematch, while he is still in the ground. The training grounds is filled with Chung-hyo's figure, as Jae-hwan has thrown him around countless times. He tells him that the match is finished, but Chung-hyo doesn't want to give up just yet, as he hasn't used his ultimate technique, which if he uses, he will die, so he is just worried about him. He also asks how old he is, and Jae-hwan explains that most likely, around 60, if he had to guess. Chung-hyo notes that he's 1,000 years old, and the mere 60 or so years of slashing would never have a chance against his 1,000 years of slashing. Jae-hwan wonders if he really did slash for 1,000 years, as it feels like he has only done it for 10 years, judging by his current abilities. Chung-hyo gets mad enough to soar into the air once again, and wonders if he will still feel the same after he gets hit with this next attack. He summons the figure of a mighty beast through his sword, and Jae-hwan prepares thrust it. The swords clash, creating a large blue shockwave, which sends both of them backwards. Chung-hyo notes that he's not bad at all, but Jae-hwan is quite annoyed, as he's being pushed back quite a lot after using the normal thrust. Chung-hyo says that his technique is pretty well made, but what is the name of it? Jae-hwan notes that it's just normal thrust, which Chung-hyo finds as quite the arrogant name, as if he names it like such. Then it makes it look like he has an even stronger technique. Jae-hwan says that a stronger technique does exist, and he charges it up. Chung-hyo wonders what he's showing him, and gets extremely scared, as this guy is starting to resemble the Soul King of Chaos. His mind wanted to forget the horror he experienced when he faced the king, but now, it has resurfaced. Would he really be able to cut through something that reminded him of the Soul King? Of course, nothing is really comparable, but that certain level of power will literally blow the Gorgon Fortress from the inside out. Jae-hwan is ready to unleash the attack, but to prevent the imminent destruction to happen, Chung-hyo gives up the fight, noting that he lost. In the 5th region of the Almighty Land, the region of strong steel, inside of a fortress, a man asks what happened to pitch darkness. Another man explains that, based on what he found out, the current pitch darkness monarch is trying to contact chaos. The unbending strong steel, the monarch of strong steel, Heo-yu, asks why he would do that. All of the monarchs of the Almighty Land have already signed a secret agreement to not interfere with the matters of chaos at all. The subordinate stars shaking, and notes that the matter is a bit more complicated than this, so he urges him to look at the screen, first and foremost. Heo looks at it for a second, and notes that it's the video of the guy who went solo on the 99th floor. But what about it? Wasn't it edited in the first place? The subordinate explains that the product in the video is said to be in a contract with the 9th region's monarch of pitch darkness. This intrigues Heo, and he asks where the product is in the first place. The subordinate starts shaking again, and notes that he most likely refused to clear the tutorial fully, literally broke through the ceiling of the tower, and escaped into chaos by his lonesome. Heo notes that the cultivator that stayed on the 100th floor should have been watching him. So what happened with him for all of this to happen? The subordinate says that the product slayed the cultivator, and Heo asks if he's just joking around. The subordinate says that he also couldn't believe it at first, but the monarch of pitch darkness has confirmed that everything he said right now is the truth. Heo starts pondering, and wonders if that bastard of a monarch has connections with chaos. The subordinate explains that they found something extremely strange during their investigations, as the monarch of pitch darkness seems to be involved with the matters of chaos, and for a long while now. Out of the 10 clans within chaos, a few have been in constant and direct contact with the monarch of pitch darkness. Heo looks at the tree, and wonders just what is pitch darkness up to. He tells the subordinate to send the letter to help him get access to chaos, and in turn he asks if he really is intending to get involved in the matters of chaos. Heo explains that he will just be observing the situation as a whole, as he needs to know what exactly is happening in there after all. He also commands for 10 elite warriors of the Gold 1 grade and Hae-young to be sent. Heo looks in the distance, and wonders if Chung-hyo is doing well in there. He would have had a long and fruitful personality were it not for that trashy personality of his. But now, he's probably living a quiet life in there. Jumping back to Chung-hyo, who is clinging onto Jae-hwan's sword for dear life, as he won't let him unleash that attack. Jae-hwan, however, has already heard him, and asks him to just get off. Chung-hyo gets down, and wonders just what kind of man would be able to do something like that after just 40 years of simple thrusting. Jae-won explains that he probably thrusted around 10 billion times, give or take, but Chung-hyo doesn't believe a word of it, as he would have needed to do 8 thrusts a second every day for 40 straight years, without eating or sleeping at all. Jae-won says that he can do 100 thrusts in a second, not just a measly 8. If he's asking of how he only thought of using his sword for thrusting, he will answer. Golden energy starts coming from him, and Chung-hyo's eyes widen, as he is now exerting the same alien energy that he did when they first met. It wasn't pressure at all that he felt, only a thrust that bears a hostility which would make mere people faint. All of that hostility is thrown towards this world. He can't believe his eyes, as this child has become the thrust himself and is thrusting towards this world every second that passes by, even at this very moment. Jae-won already told him that he thrusted about 10 billion times, and counting. By the way, he hopes he remembers the contract they both signed before dueling, where the loser would have to grant the wish of the winner. Jae-won starts reading off the plea Chung-hyo put on this paper, who tells him to stop, as he heard him already, so there is no need for something like this. However, is he perhaps intending to use him as his subordinate from now on? Jae-won explains that he wasn't thinking of doing anything of the sort, as he simply wants him to just answer a few questions honestly. That is all. Chung-hyo notes that he will, but they should take a walk outside then. Firstly, Jae-won asks what the Tower of Master is. Chung-hyo notes that he probably knows that a mayor made the Tower of Nightmares. Well, the towers made by the mayors have ranks, from F to S. However, among the mayors, there are those who simply do not care for such things as rankings. A master is someone who already made S-rank towers when they were but an apprentice, and someone who reached the top as a renowned artisan quickly. But not all towers made by a master would be a Tower of Master per se. Among them, there are towers that are made with no real intention to perform cultivations in the first place, and only unique towers are known as Tower of Master. Jae-won asks why they would make those towers in the first place, and Chung-hyo explains that he, and nobody else knows what these masters are truly thinking, as the masters themselves are individuals that are seeking the world's truth, after all. However, one thing is for certain. Among those who cleared the Tower of Master awakened would appear every now and then. Jae-won asks if he's from the Tower of Master, and Chung-hyo notes that he's from the 4th Tower of the Master, Melville. It was a tower known as the Moby Dick in that world. A gigantic white whale would appear on the 1st floor of the tower and target humans every minute it stood above water. It's not that difficult for the current him, but back then, it was a tower that was very similar to a world disaster. Many of the martial artists of Murim died in there, and clearing that tower was like a miracle. Chung-hyo notes that he also looks like a person who came from a Tower of Master. But the question is, who made his tower? Jae-won notes that Mullark did, and Chung-hyo is quite surprised by this piece of information, as he didn't think there would be anyone who managed to clear one of his towers. Jae-won asks if he knows him, and Chung-hyo says that he sure does, as they have traveled together. Jae-won would like an explanation, and Chung-hyo notes that the story is pretty long, so they should go somewhere else if he wants to hear it. They go to an open bar, where Claire hands them a few unicorn kebabs. Chung-hyo asks her if she's going to be serving meat and drink from a stall for the time being, and Claire explains that a certain someone, who is here and shall not be named, destroyed her bar. Chung-hyo says that it's hard to believe she still opened up shop after having gone through a lot back in the day. She sure likes money. Jae-won looks at the food and at the people around and is quite hesitant. Chung-hyo notes that he must feel like something is off. It doesn't feel like they are still alive, yet food and drink still exists in a world where people don't feel hunger, isn't that right? He finished chugging his drink and explains that chaos was originally a blessed world. This place was one where souls that were worn out from the Almighty Land's war went to their well-deserved rest. Everyone was able to regain their lives after being released from them. The warriors dropped their swords and bows, while wandering minstrels sang about peace and no wars. Jae-won notices a few drunkards fighting and thinks that is because of the drink, but when he goes to taste it, the mead tastes just like water. Chung-hyo explains that drunkards do not exist in this world, as they are just acting like they are. In chaos, one doesn't get drunk, hungry, or old after all. However, in such a paradise, humans started to want the opposite. They missed real life, which had the chance of death, and started to act like they were living true real life. A life where if they didn't eat, they would die, and if they drank the mead, They would get drunk. A life where they have a physical real body and a beating living heart. However, one random day, drunkards started to appear, an expedition of dreams, of the impossible, and gathers people together to rediscover real life. That would be the Abyss Expedition. Jaewon asks why they would head to the Abyss in the first place, and Chung Hyo notes that it's to look for the fruit of resurrection. It's a fruit that hangs on the branches of the illusion tree at the end of the Abyss. Jaewon is intrigued by this. Can somebody who is dead really be revived? Chung Hyo confirms that the fruit does exist, and is the only way that the dead of this world could ever come back alive. The Abyss Expedition is an alliance formed for the sake of seeking that fruit, and at the time, he had awakened already, and was at the age where he was basically fearless. Jaewon asks if Mullark was also part of that expedition, and Chung Hyo confirms that he was, the leader of the expedition actually. He was a really unique existence. He remembers the first time he met him, where Mullark applauded him for becoming an incomplete awakener without abandoning his emotions. He is truly walking a unique path among others. Chung Hyo asks him to save those words for someone else, and Mullark wonders if he's upset because of cultivation. Chung Hyo throws his sword at him, and asks why a mayor like him would want to go to the Abyss, as they usually coop themselves in a room and create towers. Mullark notes that he has no words for that, as apologizing would be useless right now, because that is something that he has to carry with him for the rest of his life. Chung Hyo was surprised that he actually regretted making the towers, and Mullark says that it's okay if he doesn't believe him, but the reason he went to the illusion tree and going to the Abyss is because of that tower. The one that would end all cultivation, that his reason for joining this expedition. Jaewon asks if the expedition was successful. Chung Hyo explains that he was only able to reach the entrance of the Abyss because he fell behind on the way, but it does seem that Mullark reached the top of the illusion tree, because a lot of fruits began to drop from the branches. Thanks to that, each of the expedition members were able to go back to chaos with lots and lots of fruits. Jaewon thinks that if it is so, why is this old man still in chaos? Claire urges him to get his facts straight, as that expedition was a failure, and he knows that all too well. Chung Hyo explains that they only succeeded up to the part where they obtained the fruit, as when they were heading back, those bastards were waiting for them at the entrance, ready. The monarchs and the patriarchs of the almighty land. While they didn't muster up enough courage to go back into the Abyss, the 4 fortress masters and 10 faction leader who were also a part of the expedition weren't a match for those guys at all. There was a crystal clear difference in power, and were in a totally different league. That was how the fruit was stolen from their hands, and those bastards used the fruits that they stole to revive themselves each time they died. They have been doing that for well over 900 years. It's as if they had another place that's built for them, a place known as the Resurrection Palace. The monarchs and 5 great families take turns reviving their dead, and it was decided from the start who would live, the only ones who could live actual proper lives. Jaewon thinks that this must be why everyone around here is so lethargic, as they know that the real life they wanted, the fruit, was stole away from them. Jaewon wants to ask more about Mullark, but Claire tells him to drop it, as he's passed out drunk. But based on what she heard, after the expedition was finished, nobody ever saw Mullark ever again. It's almost as if he fell off the earth. James comes around and thanks him for the help, as if it wasn't for him, his captain would have surely died. Jaewon seems to have forgotten about him, and James explains that the next time he enters Gorgon, he should do so through the North Gate, as he won't need identification there. Of course, they should keep this a secret from the captain. With that, he leaves, and that's when Jahir calls for the divine physician. He is clearly distraught, and notes that they've got some big trouble. They all rush as fast as they can, and Haewon can feel the energy around. Judging by this, it means that the fortress master is in that state already, a full dead. The spiritual pressure he is feeling right now, much more than what he felt from the dead that he fought previously. It's coming from deep within the fortress, or rather, more accurately, beneath from it. This makes him think of Urin, and the favor he asked him for with a serious face. He remembers that he said that he won't have to pay for any of the damage he caused inside of the fortress, and will additionally provide him with protection should it be necessary. All he needs to do for them is one favor, to save the fortress master. Jaewon notes that their fortress master is going through dedication, and Jahir says that indeed he is right. He explains that out of nowhere he just went berserk, which is weird, because usually it only happens like once a week, but today, of all days, it just happened. He is telling him all of this in advance, just in case he gets the wrong idea about things. The Fortress Master is a really good person, and before his deification unfortunately began, he was basically a living legend, since he was someone who also went to the Abyss expedition, with Mullark, and the Divine Physician. This makes Jaewon pay more attention to the conversation at hand, and Jahir says that, from what he saw at least, he is also able to perform the dead slash, right? Since the Divine Physician is in that poor state, can't he do it in his stead? Jaewon outright refuses him, as he simply imitated what this old head did, and is certainly not as good as him. This might have been different had he learnt from him, though. Suddenly, the ground starts to tremor beneath their feet, and Jahir now fears the worst, as he knows what that is. Suddenly, a surge of dead energy comes out of the fortress, and releases a large shockwave all around. Jahir covers himself, but that's when he notices two peculiar people standing at the top of the fortress. The Disruption Tower Captain, and the Despair Tower Captain. They say that it's been a while since they met, and Jaewon hears their whispers, which say that the guy carrying the Divine Physician is the one who can also use Dead Slash. Jahir pleads with them to step aside, as there is an urgent matter they must attend to, but they also probably know what already. They descend, and note that what he is asking them to do is quite a problem, as they have their orders that need to be completed. Jahir asks whose orders are those, and with a stern look on his face, demands to know if they are really intending to go against the wishes of the heavens like this. They say that the only heaven they have, and worship, is the forbidden heaven. They rush in and jump in the air, preparing to attack. Jahir notices how fast they were, and pushes Jaewon out of the way before anything can happen to him. They both land at the same time, creating a large explosion upon impact, but Jahir managed to block the both of them with only his blade. Jaewon watches him and notes that he is doing quite well. Jahir thinks that he didn't expect at all that the Forbidden Heaven clan would have people inside of the fortress. He notes that they grew quite a lot for outer fortress residents, but still, do they even know who they are facing right now? They say that he shouldn't underestimate them so much, as they are not the same people anymore. Jahir advises the both of them to think very carefully about this, as if they turn back now, the Fortress Master will surely forgive them. One of them notes that if he's talking about the same fortress monster that is being locked up down there now, he can forget it. That thing, because it can't be called human anymore, can't even control its own strength, and can't distinguish between good and evil anymore. That is not the same heaven that they served. Him being the extermination squad captain and all, why is he still serving the thing he swore to destroy, despite the current situation? Jahir looks at them dead in the eyes, and notes that he believes, with all of his heart, that the Tower Master will return to what he was originally. Suddenly, Other comes behind him and swings the hammer at his head. Before Jahir can react, the hammer lands, throwing him into a wall. If only he would have been a little more wiser, they wouldn't have had to fight like this. Isn't that the case? Jahir tries to get up to his feet, and thinks that these two are just Stage 4 adapters. So there is no way they could defeat someone like himself, who is a Stage 5 adapter, even though he is outnumbered. How are they doing this much damage in the first place? He can't even estimate how fast or strong they are anymore, as this isn't any type of normal growth he has ever seen. It's almost as if they received the boost from the deadification. Something is seriously wrong here, and this is starting to get too dangerous. He tries to tell Jaewon to leave while he still can, but Jaewon is having none of it, and throws Chung Hyo at him, who is still passed out, even after all of this. Jaewon explains that this was revenge for pushing him earlier, and that's when the disruption team captain grabs his attention. He asks if he really is able to perform the dead slash, just like the divine physician. Jaewon asks what it is to them, and they start talking between each other using telepathy, which Jaewon can see. They gather that the guy in front of them is a non-adapter, so he is probably talking nonsense. What can he really do with that short sword of his? Also, his physique isn't great, so he won't even be able to throw a proper punch, they think. Jaewon instantly transports himself behind them, and asks if they are talking about a punch like this one. Before the disruption captain can react, his cheek is met with Jaewon's fist, which sends him into the wall. The despair captain tries to defend himself immediately after seeing this, and Jaewon explains that they have way too many openings, which basically leaves them defenseless. He punches the disruption captain as hard as he can, which breaks his helmet a bit. He stands on his feet, however, and slashes downwards, which Jaewon easily dodges. He starts spinning the spear, which creates some distance between them, allowing him to charge in, while Jaewon is still on the retreat. He thinks that he became much stronger than he was, so where did this sudden energy come from? The need of revenge? Or perhaps is his heart full of hatred? He looks at him one more time and deduces that it's neither of those. What drives this lunatic is fear, and fear alone. Are they really trying to betray others in their condition? Just plain ridiculous. Jaewon notes that he isn't the savior they think he is, that tiny old man is. However,